She ran. She didn't wait to hear more. She sprinted back up the stairs, through the corridor, ignoring his voice echoing behind her. Kemi, you'll be back. The house always brings them back. She didn't stop. Not even when she passed the maid, who now stood completely still, tears running silently down her face. Not even when she saw her reflection in the hallway mirror, her eyes looking strange, distant, not quite hers anymore. She locked herself in her room and fell to the ground. And for the first time, she cried. Not just from fear. But because part of her believed him. Because in the silence, she could already feel something slipping away. When your voice is all you have left, losing it feels like dying slowly. From the inside. Kemi stayed curled up on the cold tiled floor until the morning light slipped through the curtains. But even the sun couldn't warm her. It was as if the house had drained every ounce of life from her bones. She hadn't spoken a word in hours. Not because she didn't want to. But because she couldn't. She tried whispering her name. Just her name. Nothing came out. Panic surged in her chest. She rushed to the mirror above her dresser and opened her mouth wide. Her throat looked fine. Her lips moved. But no sound. She slapped her chest. Coughed. Screamed silently. Still nothing. Just like Adizwa. Just like the others. He's already started, she thought. The house was consuming her voice, not just her words, but the will behind them. She tried to calm herself. She grabbed the diary, opened it to the middle. There, in trembling handwriting, was another entry. It starts with silence. Then comes the forgetting. First your voice. Then your memories. Then your name. Speak. Speak even if no one listens. Or he will win. Kemi stood up, chest heaving. Speak. She had to speak. Even if it came out broken. Even if no one heard it. She clenched her fists, focused all her energy, and forced the air through her throat. It was cracked. Weak. But it was there. She tried again. Her voice returned, raspy but alive. Tears filled her eyes. He wouldn't have her. Not yet. That night, she devised a plan. If the house silenced those who surrendered, she would resist. Not just with her voice, but with action. She would find a way out, and expose him. But first, she had to reach the one person who might believe her. Chioma. If anyone remembered who Kemi used to be, it was her. She grabbed her phone and went back to the shrine hallway. This time, she wasn't looking for escape. She was looking for evidence. Proof. She took photos. Of the photos. Of the shrine. Of the white scarves. Of the Yoruba symbols carved into the wood. Then she slipped back into the study and tried to send them to Chioma. Again, the message failed. But just as she was about to give up, the screen flickered, then displayed one unread message. From Chioma. Time, 4:03 a.m. Message, why are you sending me photos of dead women? Kemi, what's going on? Her hands shook. The message had gone through. Chioma got it. There was still hope. But her relief was short-lived. Because just as she turned to leave, she saw the photo printer in the corner begin to whir and blink. It was printing. Slowly. One photo. She stepped closer and waited. And when it slid out, she saw herself. Not how she looked now, but in a white scarf, eyes closed. And in the background? A grave. Fresh. Waiting. The moment you see your own grave, you realize time is no longer on your side. Kemi stared at the photo in disbelief. It was her. But not her. This version of Kemi looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Her skin glowed with unnatural stillness. Lips sealed. Hands folded across her chest like she was sleeping in death's waiting room. The white scarf was tied tightly around her head, a Deeswa scarf. And behind her, a red clay grave with no name. Just a small black cross hammered into the earth. Her knees buckled. "No," she gasped, voice raw and trembling. "I'm still alive." But even as she said it, a cold breeze swept through the study. The candle in the corner flickered, then blew out completely. Kemi grabbed the photo and stuffed it in her pocket. She had no more time to wait. She needed to leave this house. Tonight. She returned to her room and packed her essentials quickly, just her phone, the diary, and the scarf wrapped tightly in cloth. As she reached for the doorknob, she heard something that stopped her in her tracks. Footsteps. Not one person. Multiple. Coming up the stairs. Her door handle rattled. "Kemi," Chief Lady's voice came, softer than usual, like a man who already knew the outcome. "I warned you not to dig too deep." She stepped back. "Kemi, open this door and let's talk like family." She didn't answer. "You sent the photos, didn't you?" he said, voice still calm. "Do you think anyone will believe them? People don't question their saviors. And no one questions me." Kemi looked around desperately. No windows. No fire escape. Her heart pounded. "I've given you everything," he said behind the door. "Luxury. Status. Power. But you spit on it. You were meant to become. To ascend. Not resist." Suddenly, the door handle stopped rattling. Silence. Too long. Then. A loud crack. He was breaking the door down. Kemi grabbed the scarf and did the only thing she could think of. She threw it into the bathroom sink and set it on fire with the candle from her bedside. The cloth curled, blackened, twisted in the smoke. She didn't know why she did it. She just knew, it was part of him. And if he needed it to keep her bound, she had to destroy it. The fire alarm didn't go off. Of course it didn't. This house wasn't designed for safety. It was built for sacrifice. The flames died quickly, but the air felt different now. Lighter. The diary in her hand shook, its final pages fluttering open as if blown by an unseen force. And there, scrawled across the very last page, in a handwriting not hers, was a new message. It hadn't been there before. "Run to the kitchen. Under the sink. There's a way out. When the house itself turns against you, even freedom has to be stolen." Kemi ran. She didn't wait for Chief Lady to break down the door. She clutched the diary to her chest and bolted through the hallway barefoot, her ears ringing with each thud of footsteps behind her. The mansion seemed to shift as she moved, walls stretching, lights flickering, doors she had passed 100 times suddenly vanished. But she remembered the message. Run to the kitchen. Under the sink. There's a way out. The air grew thick with heat, the scent of burnt cloth still clinging to her clothes. Portraits along the hallway watched her with judging eyes, eyes that looked too human to be paint. The floorboards groaned under her weight like they were warning the house of her every move. She reached the kitchen, yanked open the cabinet beneath the sink. Just cleaning supplies. But then, at the back, nearly hidden, was a small wooden panel. Kemi yanked at it. It wouldn't budge. From upstairs, she heard the crash of something heavy, probably her bedroom door. And then his voice, no longer calm. "Kemi." She pulled again. Still nothing. Desperate, she kicked the panel with her heel. Crack. It loosened. Behind it, darkness. A hole. Cramped. Dirty. But it was an exit. She didn't think, she dove in, pulling the panel shut behind her. It was a tight crawlspace, barely high enough to lift her head. She moved forward on her elbows, the cold earth pressing against her skin, cobwebs clinging to her face. Behind her, the faint creak of the kitchen floor. He was in the room. She stopped breathing. His footsteps passed the sink. Paused. Silence. Then, the slam of a cabinet door. She bit her lip to keep from making a sound. Her entire body trembled. Finally, the footsteps retreated. She waited 5 minutes. Maybe more. Time didn't move the same inside fear. Then she crawled forward again. The tunnel grew wider, then split in two. A fork. On the right, silence. On the left, a soft humming. Familiar. She followed the hum. It led her to a grate. She peeked through. A small, dark basement lit by one flickering bulb. Inside, sitting in a corner, was the maid. The one with the red thread on her ankle. Except now, she had no thread. No emotion. Just a vacant stare. Kemi pushed the grate gently and slipped down. "Hey," she whispered. "Are you okay?" "It's me. Kemi." The girl looked up slowly. "Kemi," she croaked. "You burned it." "Yes. The scarf. I think it worked. But I need help getting out of here." The maid's eyes suddenly focused. "You can't leave yet." Kemi froze. "What?" The girl stood up shakily, pointing toward the far corner. "He didn't just bury photos," she said. "He buried her." "Who?" "Adizwa." Kemi followed the finger. There, barely visible, was a small mound of disturbed earth. Covered with a red wrapper. Her blood ran cold. "You want to leave?" the maid whispered. "Then help her first. Sometimes, the dead don't seek revenge. They seek release." Kemi stared at the shallow mound in the corner of the basement. Her chest tightened. She didn't want to move. Didn't want to step closer. But something inside her, a force beyond fear, pulled her forward. The maid watched silently from the shadows, her face pale and still, as if the light no longer reached her soul. Kemi knelt before the earth, hands trembling. "Are you sure it's her?" The maid nodded once. "He buried her when she tried to escape. But not properly. That's why she lingers. That's why she screams through mirrors." Kemi swallowed. "What do I do?" The maid handed her something. A small bottle of palm oil. Salt. And a piece of kola nut. "She was Igbo," the girl whispered. "These are her people's rights." Kemi blinked. "You knew her?" The maid nodded. "She tried to help me. Just like you." Kemi said nothing more. With shaking hands, she poured the palm oil in a circle around the mound. Sprinkled the salt. Broke the kola nut into 3 and placed them gently on top. Then she whispered a prayer. Not just for the dead. But for herself. "I free you, Adizwa. From this place. From his grip. From the silence. May your spirit rise." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights flickered. The entire basement seemed to hum with electricity. A sudden gust of wind, impossible in a sealed room, blew through the space. The candles extinguished. And then, stillness. A deep, aching stillness that felt like peace. The maid gasped. "She's gone," she whispered, placing a hand on her chest. "I can feel it. She's free." Kemi sat back, exhausted. Her body felt like it had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. She nearly dropped it. New message from Chioma. "I'm here. Outside. They won't let me in. Tell them to open the gate." Hope exploded in her chest. She stood. "I have to go. Now." But the maid didn't follow. "Aren't you coming?" The girl smiled softly. Sadly. "I've been gone for a long time, Kemi. Too long. My voice isn't mine anymore." Kemi's eyes filled. "You're still here. You helped me. That means something." The girl shook her head. "Go. Before he finds the grave. Kemi nodded, tears slipping down her cheek. She turned and climbed back into the crawlspace, heart pounding, hope fighting with fear. She didn't look back. And as she moved forward, a faint voice whispered through the tunnel. "Thank you, for remembering me." Escaping the house was one thing. Escaping his reach was another matter entirely. Kemi crawled faster than she thought her body would allow, dirt scraping her elbows, heart pounding like a talking drum in her chest. The tunnel narrowed again, forcing her to flatten her body and push forward inch by inch. Every sound, every shift of the earth, felt like Chief Lady's presence closing in. Finally, light. A faint glow up ahead. She clawed toward it, and after what felt like a lifetime, her fingers found metal. A grate. She shoved it with everything she had, it groaned, resisted, then gave way. She emerged outside, gasping. Fresh air and freedom. She blinked into the morning light. Her eyes stung from the darkness. Her lungs burned. "Kemi!" She turned. Chioma was sprinting toward her from the main gate, barefoot, wrapper flying behind her, face soaked in tears. "Kemi! Jesus! What happened to you?" Kemi stumbled into her arms. "I thought I was never going to see you again," Chioma whispered. "They wouldn't let me in. I had to lie, scream, cry." "I'm here," Kemi choked out. "But we need to leave. Now. Please. Before he knows I'm gone." They half ran, half dragged each other to the car Chioma had left hidden behind a fence. The driver was still arguing with security when they slid into the back seat. "Go!" Chioma shouted. "Now!" The car sped off. The moment the gate disappeared in the rearview mirror, Kemi broke. Tears. Shaking. Sobbing so violently that Chioma had to hold her like a child. But she didn't ask questions. She didn't press. She just let Kemi cry. Back at Chioma's apartment, Kemi locked herself in the bathroom and stared at her face in the mirror. Something was different. Her reflection looked older. Wiser. But still, hers. No whispers. No shadows. She was back. But just as she turned away, she noticed something. Her left ear. A faint mark behind it. Like a stitch. Tiny. Barely visible. And just for a second, she felt it again. The silence. That heavy, haunting silence. Inside her bones. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what you escape, it's what you carry with you. Days passed. Kemi didn't sleep much. Not because she couldn't, but because every time she closed her eyes, she dreamed of the house, its narrow halls, the shrine, the faces of women staring from mirrors like unfinished prayers. Chief Lady hadn't reached out. No calls. No messages. No threats. That scared her more than if he had. It meant he wasn't worried. It meant he had done this before. And he would do it again. Chioma tried her best to be present, cooking, praying, keeping the TV on to drown out the stillness, but Kemi had grown quiet. Not from fear, from reflection. One evening, as they sat on the balcony in silence, Chioma finally asked, "Do you want to report him? Go to the police? I have a cousin in DSS, Kemi. This can't just end like this." Kemi shook her head slowly. "It won't matter," she said quietly. "He's not just a man. He's something else. Something that's survived by being believed in. Protected. Feared." Chioma looked confused. "But if you speak." Kemi looked at her then, really looked. The women didn't just disappear. They were forgotten. No one asked. No one looked. Not even their families. They were erased. Chioma's face turned pale. "So what now?" she asked. Kemi stood. She walked into the apartment, opened her bag, and pulled out the diary. The photos. The burnt remains of the scarf, wrapped in paper. I tell their story, she said. To who? To anyone who will listen. One voice won't stop him. But many. She sat at the table, turned on her phone, and hit record. She began to speak. Not just about what happened but about who it happened to. Adizwa. The maid. The faceless girl. The silence that stole them. She spoke until her voice cracked. Until she cried. Until she remembered the power of being heard. And somewhere far away, in a house lined with portraits and quiet footsteps, Chief Lady sat in his chair, watching the screen flicker. The light dimmed slightly. He smiled. Because he knew the truth. It only takes one moment of doubt, 1 ounce of fear, for silence to return. And behind him, in the mirror, another figure began to form. This time, it was Kemi. But her eyes were open. And so, Kemi discovered a truth buried in silence. The dead do not rest when injustice binds them. She freed a voice long forgotten, but the shadows are not done. Remember this, my friend, evil hides, but truth always finds a way to rise. Kemi's voice was heard and Chief Lady was arrested and his mansion was brought down by the Lagos government. Thanks for watching.